watch this video again. I really don't want to watch it. I don't want to do it. Hello friends, welcome to my React series, where I react to documentaries made about J-fashion, Lolita fashion, alternative fashion, because I myself wear those fashions, and I have been in documentaries, and I've helped work on documentaries. This is my third episode, so if you want more background, go watch the other two. This is my second review of a Barcroft documentary. My first one was the Hooked on the Look goth and Lolita girl. I called her the Kawaii girl. This documentary is interesting because it was originally posted as a gory Lolita doll, and then the title changed to Pastel Goth, and a lot of people were speculating that like Lolita doll wasn't really accurate to describe this person. Barcroft must have wanted to make it more accurate, which I don't know is necessarily true. In my opinion, I think that Pastel Goth is probably more searchable. This also relates to my previous video, the goth who lives with a Lolita doll. A lot of the comments were regarding the fact that Rosie isn't truly Lolita or isn't Lolita anymore. From a YouTube standpoint, it makes sense to me that they would lump her in the category of a Lolita because it is more searchable. YouTube is a video sharing platform, but at its core it's also a search engine, and so even though Rosie's style is unique to her, there's nothing really that you can call it for looking it up. Barcroft probably used Lolita doll because the whole living doll craze is more popular amongst people that don't know about Lolita. Like, it's more well known and more searched and more recognized by the general public, which sucks, but I wanted to explain that people in these documentaries don't have a lot of say of what it's titled. In my previous videos, I've asked for you to suggest documentaries that you want me to react to, and this one was hugely requested. I wanted to talk about this documentary because from a filmmaking and from a storytelling perspective, it doesn't really have any direction and it doesn't really make sense. A lot of people had backlash to this documentary because the subject of it, Jessica, she's interesting. Jessica is kind of racist. Like, she's racist in a different kind of way, in an unconventional racist way. I want to look at this from the documentary perspective and not really get into her as a person. I just want to kind of address what is here in this doc. But if you want to know more backstory about her, I highly recommend that you watch Tyler Willis's video covering it because it shows all of the receipts, everything that you need to know all in one place. I know a lot of my viewers don't like Tyler Willis's videos because she has insult humor, but I feel like in this video, she doesn't use a lot of it. There are a few comments that she makes specifically about Jessica's nose ring, but other than that, she's not too bad. She's kind of like been tamer, and this video is more about just the receipts, the facts, I guess. You should definitely watch it because I might be referencing Tyler's video while I watch this doc. But to summarize a little bit, Jessica had made a post and someone replied to it basically saying that they wanted to see more dark-skinned Lolitas. They wanted to see more people of color wearing kawaii fashion. The aesthetic is seen and shared a lot with people that are pale, and there's a history of pale blogs that only really promote pale people. And Jessica was kind of like, no, that's not true. And you're basically discrediting the experience of someone who's gone through this. Like, Jessica would not have experienced this. And she started to sort of listen to the commenter, but then just doubled down and kind of tried to discredit everything.
She defended All Lives Matter before asserting that the exclusion of black representation in alt fashion isn't real, said the concept is pseudo-intellectual, accused a black woman who wanted to see more dark skin tones represented of being a racist, and summed it up with the declaration that even mentioning race strips people of their identity and apparently creates an automaton unit who will robotically carry out the interest of the group in the most imbecilic non-Onion article-esque statement the world has ever seen. Because the floodgates are open now, and what was basic bitch racism a la belligerent ignorance appearance has morphed into something I don't even recognize on the plane of coherent thought, and I'd just like to take a moment to examine it. She says the quote would have had more impact 60 years ago, and then? As far as I'm concerned, people of all skin colors are and have been free and protected by law in this country since July of 1965, following Lyndon B. Johnson's signing of the Civil Rights Act. I'm just going to let that one sit for a bit.
And Jessica wants to live in a world where everyone is equal and nobody sees color, which is like fine and dandy and a really lovely sentiment, but that's not the world that we live in. Especially when people of color are telling you and giving you experiences and having evidence that that's not the world that we live in. When it comes to this documentary, the one sort of storyline that I could pick up from this is that Jessica wants to inspire people. But I don't understand how you can inspire people when you don't believe in people's experiences when they're telling them to you. And when you say that you don't care about other people's experiences. Like, she literally says she doesn't care.
No one cares about your struggles.
I want people to know that there are people out there who understand and who will help you.
No one cares about your struggles.
Is that what you stand for? Helping people? Having them hear you out? Listening to their stories and their experiences and not discrediting them?
You're not as crazy as you think you are for expressing yourself through art.
You're not as crazy as you think you are by expressing yourself through through art. Through your own art. Shout out to anybody who lives in Rhode Island. I really want to know if any of you watching live in Rhode Island. I've never met anyone from Rhode Island.
I like to incorporate tattoos, piercings into more cutesy things.
Why is she holding Chucky? Like, there's not enough explained here. I want her to address why she's holding Chucky. Why is Chucky, like, important to her? How's that influenced her style? She just says that she's influenced by J Fashion, but like, what J Fashion?
Kind of add more of like a gory or more of a harsher look.
What are the examples though? What?
Depending on the day, I do different.
Oh, look at that busted makeup palette. So like, the way that documentaries like these work is they generally have an idea of what they want to express, and then they'll film the person being interviewed. You have to remember, when you're seeing these shots of her looking at you, this isn't like a YouTube video where she's just talking unprompted. You can tell that there's a producer or an intern or somebody on the other side who's asking her questions and then she's answering them. And then they basically will follow the person throughout their day and get B-roll shots of them to put in to the interview to kind of mix it up and have different things for you to look at.
In film and television production, B-roll or B-reel is supplemental or alternative footage intricate with the main shot.
Feeling that day and what I'm feeling inspired by. Doing this is like very relaxing. It's kind of like I'm taking time out of my day for myself.
Oh, can we get more B-roll of that busted makeup palette? That's really important to get in there.
Accept that people don't necessarily understand, and I'm not expecting everyone to understand.
It's really hard. People aren't gonna understand because you're not really getting to the point. You're just on the surface of like, this is the way that I dress, but what is it inspired by? Where is it coming from? Where did it evolve from? And you're thinking maybe we're gonna get more into that in this documentary, like maybe this is just the intro and I'm overreacting too soon, but no, we don't really get into it. I don't know if this is the person who's questioning her, if they're just not, you know, they could have asked her one of these things and then branched on into it deeper and asked more questions. And I'm not sure if they just didn't choose to or if she didn't give them deep enough answers. I want to believe that just for the sake of being nice, I want to believe that maybe she said a lot more and maybe she talked about her references and the things that inspire her more and they just cut it out. But from her behavior online, it would seem that that's not true.
Even if she didn't intentionally copy Toshi, You can agree their makeup is similar in that she could mention others who are similar to help spread the style of makeup and inspire others, which she claimed was her original intention being filmed.
Yeah.
I always knew that I wanted to like push social boundaries. I wanted to do something different, and I knew that the way that people express themselves through like what they saw in the media was just not for me.
Okay.
I did some research online and found communities of wonderful people who are into Japanese fashion.
What communities? But also I can tell that there was an edit there because she said communities of, then it cuts to an overlay of pictures of her from the past, and they input Japanese fashion. So like, what did communities of what?
How are people supposed to learn and be inspired if you don't name your sources?
Inclined unless it's like drawing on my face.
You sure?
And I can hardly do that.
Jess and I met at the mall. I mean, we met on the internet first and decided to meet in person there. Very taken aback because evidently anybody who sees Jess for the first time is going to react like, wow. Just wow. Like whether or not...
Her boyfriend looks like Titanic Sinclair, and he acts like Titanic Sinclair, and he kind of sounds like Titanic Sinclair. So happy that other people I could see in the comments of this video were mentioning that, because that's immediately what I thought, which concerns me.
Conspiracy theory. What if Jessica was being controlled by her boyfriend in a similar way to Titanic Sinclair?
Okay, so up until this point, it's very much... the storyline has been about her fashion, her style, her makeup. She likes to do her makeup this way. What way? We haven't really defined that. But now I don't know where the documentary is gonna go from here.
Why do you do what you do? Why are you doing?
Why are you doing this? What is your purpose?
And I was like, I just like makeup, man.
Why are you doing this? What is your purpose? She just likes makeup. Okay, cool. Like, but what kind of makeup? How do you inspire others to do this makeup? What have you learned from it about yourself? How, like, just...
Essentially, it's just makeup.
Then they just repeat again, essentially it's just makeup. So shouldn't this documentary be, like, about makeup? Like, where is the...
Maybe we can talk about makeup, different makeup that she's planning to do, show different makeup that she's done in the past, talk about her references, what has inspired her, the history of her makeup,
Now, for some reason, we're gonna step away from talking about Jess's fashion, and we're just gonna hear her boyfriend play some music for a while by a river. Why? I'm not sure. Maybe if this was a documentary about like eccentric couples and things that they do and like maybe talk about the reactions that you get from people. But no, this is supposed to be a documentary of like a pastel goth person, of their fashion, of their makeup. So why are we now subjected to that kid in high school who always brought his acoustic guitar to school and would play it at lunch and you couldn't escape it? Why are we subjected to this? I'm gonna just mute this because I might get in trouble. I feel like he might try to sue me. And suddenly Holly's here. And this video needs more me. I could play guitar. Listen to my SoundCloud. Yeah, 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 yeah. Do you wanna now react to the rest of this video and speak for me? Because that's what he does for her.
I feel like I have to say that part.
Alright.
I think I now need to react because I think the world needs to know my opinion.
If Jess and I walk around the street, generally people don't say many things to us, and if there are comments,
When Jess and I walk around the street, people don't say things to us, and then they cut to footage of them at clearly a convention.
Really?
Yes! Look it! They're at a convention! Look it! They're in like a convention hall. You wouldn't see Mortal Kombat. I mean, I wish I would see Mortal Kombat characters like just walking
out
around
in
in
the
the street,
wild.
just normal. But no, they're clearly at a convention. So why are you talking about, oh, we go to conventions to find people like us, to like experience things together, to inspire people?
Isn't this more on the people who made the documentary though than them?
Yes and no. The reason that I want to address it is so that people making documentaries will try and do better. But I also wonder, because the surface is there, I'm kind of curious if the documentary filmmakers were trying to get more information from them and they didn't. give the right information, or they tried to then twist it, because clearly they're trying to twist it by having him be this involved in it. It is very much on the creators. The overall story is their responsibility.
They're really positive. People will say like, oh my god, I love your makeup. This is amazing. Do you do this every day? How long?
Why is he saying this?
That's what I want to know. Why is he
Why?
answering questions about her makeup? I feel like it would have been better if they maybe interviewed them separately. Because like it is important to have, to show your significant other as to back up your character, to show part of your life, but I feel like he's definitely taking away from her answering stuff, and if they'd had him separately...
Taking away, don't you think this is such a great contribution to the video?
If they'd interviewed him separately, they would have just asked him directly, like, what is your experience like when you're with Jess? How did you meet her? Like, what are some things that you like to do together? It would have kind of controlled his direction more. And then he talks about her getting negative comments when he's not around. Like, that's the perfect point for him to stop talking and for her to then be like,
that seems like something she should talk about.
yeah, these are the things that I have been told, or like, this is how I've overcome it. Like, have some form of direction. Even that lazy of bunny is like side-eyeing him right now.
The shade.
People will ask me like, where do you see yourself in 30 years? Or where do you see yourself when you're 40? I can't answer that question because I don't know what the future holds. If you asked me last year if I was gonna be who I am today, I would not know.
Well, okay, then who were you last year? How have you evolved and changed? How do you want to see yourself evolve and change?
Just besides all this stuff surrounding who they are as people, this documentary is very like boring. Like,
It doesn't have a story arc. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no purpose. The only thing that I can get from it is like, be inspired and this is what I look like, but how and why, and I'm not learning anything. Like, people that are new, that have never seen a person dressed like this, doing makeup like this, like, they didn't really learn anything from this.
Yeah.
So this is like the wrap up. This is the finale. This is the final thoughts.
I feel like every day I do my makeup, I'm just closer to my purpose, and I feel like I'm closer to being able to express myself honestly to my fullest extent.
What does that mean? If she's saying, at the end of this doc, she's saying that she's reaching being able to express herself honestly, then like, what's prohibiting her? Why today does she not feel like this is 100% me, this is who I am, I'm proud? Why does she say, like, we didn't even... What have we learned from this?
I haven't played guitar in a while, so my fingers hurt.
I've talked before about how documentaries aren't just like the truth and how they need to have some form of direction, and this is a perfect example of why. Because you want people to see a documentary reflecting the J fashion community that actually teaches them something or inspires them. I don't feel inspired.
I don't feel like I learned anything from
Even
that.
before I knew anything about her past, about who she is, I watched this and I didn't feel inspired. This is mostly on the creators, I feel, but I also feel that she, too, should have had more that she wanted to express.
Yeah.
She should have had more that she wanted to talk about, and maybe it was all edited out. I don't know. But it doesn't make sense to me from a storytelling standpoint that they would edit out those kind of things. Do better. Make better documentaries. If you're being interviewed, make sure that you have kind of an overall story that you want to tell, and consider all of these things. If you're gonna make documentaries about someone, make sure that you're giving the right person a platform. And for f***'s sake, like, has Barcroft made a fashion documentary featuring someone who's a person of color? I don't think so. Or if they have, there's a lot more pale people. So maybe that should be their direction. Anyway, stay lovely. Dolls.
What makeup artists
what?
did you get inspired by?
You know, she can't tell who she's gonna be in the future because she doesn't know, like, what makeup artist she's gonna see on Instagram and want to copy. How can she predict that? Only the Instagram algorithm can predict that.